How to use mockup templates in Photoshop. If you clicked on this video, there's a good chance that you downloaded a PSD mockup template from the internet and you open it up in Photoshop, took one look at the layer stack, and you're just like, what the fuck is all this shit? I have no clue how to use this. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create mockup images using PSD mockup templates. I'm going to show you the manual method for doing this one at a time inside of Photoshop, and I'm going to show you a way to automate this process to where you can create dozens or even hundreds of mockup images inside of Photoshop with just a few simple button clicks to save a ton of time on this process. Really, the key to working with mockup templates in Photoshop is understanding their fundamental structure, and what you'll find is even though it looks complicated on first glance, most of these files actually share some key commonalities that make them pretty simple to work with. I have a couple of simplified scenes and files here that really sort of boil them down to their essence. So fundamentally, most mockup templates really just boil down to a smart object layer, which corresponds to your artwork or design image. Then there's going to be some sort of background layers that correspond to the rest of the scene. And finally, you'll have some sort of overlay layers that add texture, realism, and other stuff to really just bring the whole scene together to make it look a lot more realistic. So whatever file you've downloaded online and that you're working with, really what you need to do is find the smart object layer, and it typically has this little, it's like a little document save icon looking thing. And what you can do is double click that, and that allows you to step into the smart object, like so. We're going to pop over to a different file here. This is a completely different file. And again, here, this is the layer that fundamentally corresponds to where your artwork image would go. So what you can do is you can double click this layer to sort of step inside of it. What I'm going to do is find an image that I already have open. We're going to use this one here. And now that we're inside of the smart object, what you can do is drop your image inside of it, and then you can just sort of upscale it so that it fits appropriately, like so. We'll go ahead and save this and navigate back over to this. And as you can see, we've effectively replaced the smart object layer with our design here. Really, once you've replaced the smart object layer with your target design, you're pretty much good to export the final mockup image. I'm going to get rid of this weird grid line background real quick. But once you've replaced the image, you can just go File, Export. I'm just going to quick export real fast. Here in this folder, I'm just going to say Classy Pigeon Framed Canvas Arts V1. And here it is in all of its unadulterated glory. Many of the mockup templates that you'll download online allow you to customize certain parts of the scene, certain elements, like this one here has a color frame where you can actually open this up and you can actually come here, you can change it to a black frame, you can change it to a brownish color, whatever tickles your fancy really. Something else you'll notice, however, is a lot of these scenes are needlessly complicated and some of the files can be gigantic. Like this one here is 103 megabytes, 6,000 by 6,000 pixels. I mean, this thing is IMAX theater ready. You know, you can put this bitch up on a 4K monitor and put a microscope to it and it'll look fantastic. But really, if you're just creating simple mockup images for online or web delivery, something you can do to reduce the size of your file, make it faster to work with, make it so your save operations run faster. Something you can do is actually modify the size of the scene itself by just coming here. You can just go image and image size, and then here you can just sort of customize the entire scene to your liking. And if it's a really complicated layer stack, and if you just don't really need a lot of these elements, something you can do is just delete a bunch of stuff. You can, you know, merge a lot of the elements. Definitely save a backup before you start going gung-ho and crazy about this, but this is definitely something you can do to reduce the file size as well. We can take this, we can trim it down to 1,000 by 1,000, zoom in here like this, and then I'm just going to take this whole thing here. I'm going to make this a little bigger so that it takes up most of the image. And just with a couple quick enhancements like that, that was like 30 seconds of work. This is just a dramatically smaller file. We went from 100 megabytes to 3 megabytes. So this thing's like 30 times smaller, and it's going to be significantly faster to work with inside of Photoshop. So that's the manual method really. Double click the smart object, step into it, open your image that you're working with. Then you can just take the image here, step into your smart object layer, blow it up to the target size required to fit inside of it as you see fit. If you want to make it maybe slightly bigger, whatever works for you, I guess. And then just save this interior layer and then come back to your file here. And then all you need to do is File, Export, and export the mockup image like so. Abstract Art, Portrait, Framed Canvas Art, V1. And here we have it, looking much better. and probably a significantly smaller file. This one was 6 megabytes. That was the original. gigantic one, 6,000 by 6,000. This one is 230 kilobytes, so a much smaller file, better for web delivery, a lot faster load times on your website, and so forth. Now, we got lucky on this one because it was a relatively simple mockup scene where there was just one smart object. Some of the other ones you'll download online, they'll have a bunch of different smart objects, and you might just be completely clueless as to which one you actually need to modify. This one apparently has like multiple linked smart objects and is kind of complicated. My recommendation, if that's your situation, just pick one random smart object and just try it out. Like, I'm just going to open this one and let's just see what happens. Let's try to replace that one. We'll drop this in here, flatten the image, save it, pop back over, and hey, it looks like that's the one I need to replace. Anyway, that's really the manual process for creating mockup images in Photoshop and using your PSD files. I'm going to show you how to automate this process next, to where instead of manually doing this and clicking around and individually opening your files and doing this one by one, instead you can perform a bulk automated operation where you can generate all your required mockup images with like 10 seconds of work. One more quick thing here, some of the mockups that you'll get, the overlay layers are sometimes just a little bit much. Like this one, in my opinion, it takes too much of the coloration out of the scene. You can always just come here and customize this stuff to your liking. Don't be afraid to save a copy of this file and just sort of play around with it and try to make it look good. Like if I was using this one here, I'd probably push this layer to like 60% is probably the highest I'd push it, because it gives it a little more realism where it definitely looks like it's more integrated into the artwork, but not so much that it like, washes out the color or whatever. Anyway, don't be afraid to customize and play around with different layers in here. You can always come here, toggle some stuff and sort of see what are the consequences of doing this or that. You can always undo your changes and return to the earlier file. I'm going to show you how to automate the creation of your mockup images next. So instead of having to do this manually one at a time, we're going to do a bulk operation to generate, how many images is it? Let me see real quick. I have 100 images inside of this folder. I'm going to create 100 mockup images with like 10 seconds of work. So this is a Photoshop plugin called Batch Replace Smart Objects. This allows you to automate the creation of mockup images in Photoshop. Really the way it works is, as the name suggests, it batch replaces the smart object in your mockup scene with all of the images from your input folder, and then it automatically exports them to your specified output folder. And if you're working with a large number of mockup templates, where maybe you have room mockup 1, room mockup 2, room mockup 3, whatever it happens to be, instead of just working on one particular mockup template at a time, this plugin allows you to select an entire folder of PSD files to use. So what it'll do is it'll basically perform the automated operation for all of the PSD files you want to work with, using all of the artwork images in your specified input folder. It's a huge time saver. I'm going to show you how to use it real quick. We'll run a couple automated operations. So the first thing you do is select the Photoshop document to use for the current operation. I'm going to click this button. I have this folder of PSD files here. I'm just going to select this one and that's all good to go. Input folder to use, that's going to be the folder of your artwork images to use. So I'm going to come here, select my artwork images folder, and that's good. Stretch images to fit smart objects. Now that's a little checkbox you can optionally enable for each operation. What this allows you to do is basically all of the images from your input folder will get automatically resized to perfectly fit the smart object. So if there's variance, if the images are, slightly different aspect ratios or sizes or whatever it is, cool, you can just leave this checked and the plugin will automatically resize your images. So the mockups will always look perfect. The image will always perfectly fit inside of the scene. It does run faster if this is unchecked. So for this first demonstration, I'm going to leave it unchecked just because I know all of these images are the same size and aspect ratio, and they should fit perfectly. Output folder to use, this is where you just select where you want your final exported mockup images to get saved to. I'm just going to create a folder real fast for this demo. Outputted mockup images, that's all good. We'll select that, and you can customize the save quality. We're just going to do JPEG. We'll just leave it at the default save quality. If you want to apply compression, you can do a lower save quality, so that'll lead to a lower file size, but the quality will be a little bit lower. Alternatively, if you're going for a really high quality image and you're comfortable with a larger file size, you can go towards the higher end of the spectrum. Anyway, this is all set up. I'm just going to open up the folder so we can see the images getting created for us. I'm going to click run this now, and it's creating the images for us as we speak. We're up to 25 right now. We're up to 50. We're up to 60. We're up to 75, 90, and 100. Just like that, it created all those mockup images for us automatically. We'll zoom in so we can see in a little more detail what it created. As you can see, everything looks great. This saved us a ton of time on this process, because if we're going in and manually doing this one at a time, double click the smart object, drop our image in there, export the image, it's a really tedious, repetitive process, where if you're doing this by the dozen or 100, it's a big time waste of your time, and you can just automate this process using this Photoshop plugin. I'll show you the resize feature real quick, where it can stretch images to fit the smart objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say badly sized images 1, and I should have a couple of images, and I should have, yeah, okay, I'm going to use this 4x5 image, and I'm going to use these incorrectly sized images here, and that's going to be our folder for this operation. So we're going to go badly sized images. As you can see, not very good. This is a 4x5. I don't even know what the fuck this is. And this is a 2x3, of course. We're going to change the input folder real fast to badly sized images. And let's run this real quick. And so there's a little intermediate step when you have this checked, where it opens up the image, resizes it to fit the smart object, then it does the replace smart object operation, and it exports the mockup. So it takes a little longer to run this, but that is a small price to pay for perfect looking mockup images. So that's pretty good stuff. It's a very handy feature where you can just sort of dump a bunch of images into a folder, pass it through this plugin, and out the other end comes solid, usable mockup images. Couple other quick things. Now I'm going to show you how to use an entire folder of PSD files. So that first operation, we were just using one single Photoshop document, but maybe if you're creating several different mockup images, like different room mockups, different variants, whatever it is, you can just point to an entire folder of PSD templates to use. Click this real fast. We're going to go to our folder of PSD files. Inside of here, I have 9 different mockup templates, a couple variants, and a couple different room mockups. So what it's going to do is it'll start with the first one in the folder. It'll create all of the mockup images for all of these artwork images. Then it'll move on to number 2, do the same thing, number 3, 4, and so forth. We're going to use just 15 images for the operation just to run it a little faster, because we are using 9 different templates. So we'll select that real fast. Artwork images here. And finally, we're going to uncheck this, select our output folder to use. We're just going to say outputted mockup images, select folder, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to click run this, and it's going to start with the first mockup template in the folder, crank out the mockups, and move on to the second one. So I'm going to zoom out so we can sort of watch this as it goes. We're on to the third one, our brown framed canvas. We're on to number 4, which is the white framed canvas. As you can see, it's just cranking them out on autopilot for us, and this is a huge time saver if you have a large number of mockup templates to use. We're on to the room mockups now, and it's just cranking them out, chugging along, completely automated, 100% on autopilot. This operation is completely finished. That was pretty fast. We'll go here and take a look. So here we have all of our created mockup images. That was a completely automated operation. And you know, if you're doing this for hundreds of images, dozens of different mockup templates, the time savings from being able to just automate this are truly enormous. 2 more quick notes. You can also save operations instead of running them in real time. So you can just say make my canvas mockups, exclamation points, save, and your saved operations will show up here in this batches tab. You can just click run. It'll run the operation using your specified settings, or alternatively, you can chain together operations to where step 1 will be one saved operation, step 2 will be another saved operation, step 3, and so forth. You can come to your workflows tab here, and it'll basically iterate through all the operations with one single button click. Anyway, super useful plugin for automating the creation of your mockup images. If you need to just make a couple quick mockups, cool, you can just do it in Photoshop. Step into the smart object, drop your image, save it, export as needed. But if you're creating a large volume of mockups and want to save time on this process, this Photoshop plugin is a big time saver. Hope you found this helpful. Make sure to drop a like and comment down below. You can find a link to this plugin in the description or comment section for this video. That's all I got for now. Thank you guys for watching, and see you later.